Hi, I'm Rodney, employment lawyer and practice lead of Max People Perform. And in support of Small Business Week, we thought myself and Miriam Anbar, a colleague of mine, also an employment lawyer, would share some of the challenges that many of our clients who are small to mid-sized businesses face in the area of employment law. So Miriam, what do you see as the top 3 challenges?
Well, I would say that our clients typically face issues when it comes to hiring employees, when it comes to dealing with performance issues with employees once they're employed, and obviously at the end of a relationship when it comes to terminating employees. I think those 3 issues are probably the main ones that our clients face, and I think we should probably start off with talking about the hiring process.
The hiring process is a very important process that we talk to all of our clients about, both on the HR and employment law side of our business. And in the hiring process, things that come up repeatedly with small to mid-sized businesses are hiring managers that maybe aren't trained in asking the right questions. A lot of employers today still ask questions like, how many kids do you have, where you're born, what religion do you practice, and again, 90% of the time this is done through conversation in an interview as opposed to deliberately violating the Human Rights Code. But there is a risk of doing that, so we often train our managers and our clients on asking the right questions. Also in the hiring process, it's very important that you have a really good orientation, that you're helping to integrate the person into the organization in a smooth and seamless manner, and with a greater likelihood that they're going to stay. And lastly, in the hiring process, and I've talked about this in the past with our clients, is having valid and enforceable employment agreements with a termination clause, because at the time of hiring is when you want someone to sign off on the agreements, as opposed to once they're in the employment relationship, when then it becomes unenforceable. So those are some of the keys to hiring from an employment law perspective. We can obviously go into greater detail, but those are some of the key points. I want to ask Miriam now about her experience in the challenges employers face in performance management.
So performance management is often a sensitive issue. A lot of times employees aren't performing adequately, and it's often a tricky conversation to have. Our advice would probably be to document any issue you have with an employee when it comes to performance. So making notes of it, keeping track, setting certain standards for the employee, seeing how they follow those standards, if they reach the goals that you've set for them, and having conversations, but making sure you document everything, giving employees proper warnings when it comes to performance reviews or discipline, and just keeping track of everything so that an employee isn't surprised by any of these allegations, and giving employees a chance to respond to these issues. I think that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah. And just to add one point to that, Miriam talked about employees being surprised. What we find happens in our employment law practice is managers want to discipline or terminate an employee, and in 90% of the cases, there's nothing in their file. And employers don't want to make the sacrifices that are necessary to terminate someone for performance. And there's a little bit of a myth, I would say, in employment law that you can't do that, when if you follow some of the things that Miriam talked about, you absolutely can terminate for performance. It just takes time and sacrifice.
For sure. And I guess, speaking of termination is another sensitive topic. Jordan, why don't you tell us a bit about your experience with clients when it comes to severing the employment relationship?
And unfortunately, it happens more than we'd like, although we often say to our clients, you're not in the business of terminating people. It is something that happens from time to time when the business relationship doesn't work out. There's 2 types of termination. There's a just cause termination for things like insubordination, harassment, assault in the workplace, or breach of trust, theft. These are very serious workplace misconduct that usually doesn't trigger any form of termination or severance pay from an employment law perspective. However, most terminations that Miriam and I are faced with that come to our desk are without cause terminations. And in this case, it's really important to treat the employee with dignity and respect in the termination process, because termination itself is serious. So it goes without saying that the manner in which the employer terminates someone becomes very important. And third parties, whether it be courts, human rights tribunals, or arbitrators, will frown upon employers who don't treat employees with dignity and respect. So that's kind of the key point that we want to leave you with in terminations. And just as we wrap up now, we want to summarize, if small businesses are facing these challenges, which we know you are, we'd love you to call us at Jordan Rodney, Barrister and Solicitor, of which Miriam is part of, at 905-695-5995. Thank you.
Thank you.